Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Electric Vibe podcast. I am your co host, Kurt Hoffman, and my brother from another mother with the smooth voice sounds is none other than.
I'm J. David Silva, and you know that I am the Electric Man.
Yes, Jay, we do. But today, those electric man vibes are going to talk about a very big subject we just lost suddenly yesterday. Can you tell us who we're talking about today, Jay?
Yeah, Kurt, and very sadly, we're going to be recording today to talk about the life and the legacy of Quincy Jones.
Mhm.
And I think that, most people know that Quincy Jones was an icon in popular music as a musician, record producer, songwriter, composer, arranger, and a film and television producer. Quincy had a career spanning over 7 decades with 28 Grammy Awards, one out of, get this, 80 nominations. And Jones worked with everyone from Sinatra to Michael Jackson and so many others. He's a true legend in entertainment, and Quincy's going to be sorely missed. A couple of quick things to note. You
Yeah.
know, since we're talking about the Grammys, Quincy Jones was won the Grammy Legend Award in 1992 as only one of 15 recipients to ever win that award, and he was also awarded the National Medal of Arts by
Yep.
then President Barack Obama in
And it's
2011.
yep.
So, amongst those career accomplishments, there's a big void in entertainment and music today.
Huge, huge. I'd also like to add, as I was listening off and on at my work today, he was also the first black record executive for Mercury Records,
Mhm.
and he is the first black American musician to score major Hollywood film soundtracks. I
Oh,
mean, in cold blood,
right.
um,
Nominated for the
in the
Academy
heat of the
Award.
night,
Right.
uh, and some of us that grew up of a certain era knew soul bossa nova as the theme from Austin Powers, right? Which Mike Myers used as his theme for his those spoofs of basically Alfie meets James Bond. It was a
Right.
kind of a mishmash of those two characters, and a lot of people are like, oh, that's a theme from Austin Powers. Well, no, it's actually Quincy Jones' Soul Bossa Nova, which he does have a cameo conducting Soul Bossa Nova in the third Austin Powers Goldmember movie. So he does make an appearance in that. And Mike Myers directly, as his character in Austin Powers, directly references him.
Sure. Well,
Uh,
and even look at the way his career transcended generations. I mean, there was
oh,
a whole
and
generation of
genres.
people who came to know Quincy Jones through his collaborations with Michael Jackson, which obviously were huge for, conducting and really helping to orchestrate, along with Lionel Richie and Michael Jackson, the We Are the
Yes.
World project. So
Oh,
even as a young man during that time, that's how I was further exposed to Quincy because
mm-hmm.
my
Yep.
father listened to Quincy Jones. My father listened to Sinatra. He had a bunch of the collaborations, but I just
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
very interesting how then a new generation of younger people came to know Quincy, albeit through, again, a different genre and a different type of music.
Look, Quincy had a skill set, Jay, that a lot of people may not necessarily know about him. A lot of people are going to know his name through, like you said, "We Are the World," the three classic Michael Jackson, solo albums. But a lot of people aren't going to necessarily know that in 1957, after he already had this career leading his own band, playing the trumpet,
Right.
that and working with Ray Charles, who knew how to read music. I don't know how many people. Ray Charles was an exception to the rule. A lot of people may think, oh, Ray Charles just did everything by ear. He notated and read and wrote music in Braille and taught Quincy his first lessons in composition. And then he later went on in 1957 to the Paris Conservatory of Music as a black man
Mhm.
and studied with famous female French composer Nadia Boulanger and got his classical chops and arrangements and skill set from the Paris Conservatory, and then went on to work with Michel Legrand, who is a famous French songwriter, and his songs have been used in Broadway. So this guy, the reason why Quincy Jones is a successful producer, arranger, and entrepreneur is because he had such a wide palette
Absolutely.
of knowledge and skill sets. So when people go, why is Thriller one of the greatest selling albums of all time? Is because you had somebody like, Quincy didn't need Michael in his life.
Right.
Michael needed Quincy. Let's just keep it a buck. Michael is a huge
100%.
talent, but when we look at the catalog of work that Quincy does prior to recording Off the Wall, he's testing that skill set out on guys like the Brothers Johnson on those classic albums that they did up to Light Up the Night, which
Right.
comes out a year before Off the Wall. And one of my favorite songs of all time in his arrangements is his arrangement of Rod Temperson's Stomp. And Rod
Stop.
Temperton went on to write, help Michael write many songs, including Thriller.
Thriller. Right.
But Quincy is just, when he decided to go back into solo composition after the Michael Jackson years, back on the block.
Back on the block, an ambitious
Uh,
project.
Q's Juke Joint, all these post stuff. Prior to that, you can almost credit Quincy with smooth jazz with albums like Body Heat.
Right.
And let's not even, I'm just refreshing my memory on his history. Quincy had a major brain aneurysm in 1974, married to none other than Peggy Lipton of Mod Squad and Twin Peaks fame.
That's right.
Okay. Here's a hell of a timeline for you. He nearly lost his life. Having an aneurysm is like having 15 strokes in the brain. And being married to a neuroscientist, you learn that that's a huge deal when you survive something like that. And he learns not to stress out about the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff, as my grandfather used to say. Well, I mean, no shit. He learned a huge lesson from that. Okay.
Right. Well, and Kurt,
And
I'm sorry.
no, go for it. Go for it.
Think about all of the genres that Quincy was comfortable with and
Oh
how
my
he
God.
practically applied them. So you figure jazz, bebop, rock. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the work that.
Yes.
So I mean, hits like "It's My Party" and things like
I
that.
was just going to say Leslie Gore.
He brought such a wide array of talents and perspectives to different types of audience. So a lot of times I think it's unfair how people try to pigeonhole, he was just the We Are the World guy or Michael Jackson. And it's
Sure.
unfair with every artist that you just brought up and every musical genre you just brought
Yeah.
up. You can't discount the legacy that happened prior to the massive success of, say, Thriller or
You can't. But here's the genius that is Quincy. So, and I just refreshed my memory on this. So the song "Fly Me to the Moon," which everybody gives credit to Johnny Mercer for,
Mhm.
Johnny Mercer contributed the lyrics and refined the lyrics a little bit in the music. Quincy Jones is responsible for the original title of that song, and I forget the guy's name who originally wrote it. Google it, people. It was originally called "In Other Words," and it was in a waltz tempo. If you know anything basics of music, waltz is in three. Fly me to the moon and let me play among the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? As Wonder Bread white as you can get. You take a genius like Quincy Jones, and Quincy calls. Quincy is rather called by Frank Sinatra on the phone. Q, hi, this is Frank. And like, oh, hi. This arrangement you did for Count Basie on this song, in other words, I want you to do something with it for me and make it into a song. I didn't know this either, dude. I was today years old when I learned this.
8 years old.
He literally said, okay, well, we're going to take that song, we're going to take it out of a waltz, and I'm going to give it some swing, Frank. Just trust me, I'll get it done. Based on the fact that Frank heard an album that Quincy's hero, Count Basie, did. He arranged for his hero, Count Basie, because he's a jazz guy. And, the great Live at the Sahara album that Frank does, those are all Quincy Jones arrangements.
These arrangements, absolutely.
He is key and responsible for making the music arrangement of Fly to Me to the Moon something that fit Frank Sinatra like a glove. He was a tailor.
Right, absolutely.
And that's the genius that he brings to the table before Michael Jackson's even a thought in his head. Again, Michael needed Quincy. Quincy did not need Michael. If Michael Jackson never appeared in in Michael's world and the lexicon of that era that he worked with Michael Jackson, he'd still maybe not as much of a household name, but he'd still get the lauds and praises and awards and attention due to him that he deserves because he did so much else out there. He already took a white 16-year-old girl named Leslie Gore and Quincy, in order to break into the white market, you need to write a big pop hit. Well, that's no big. In his arrogance and youth, he's like, well, that's no big deal. I can do that, and ended up writing not
Right.
just it's my party, I'll cry if I want to, arranging it, not necessarily writing it. Don't tell me what to do. You don't own me. You don't fool me. You don't own
Yeah.
me.
The part
Right.
two. Right. Yep.
So
Yep.
like Quincy already had the special sauce. He could bottle it and sell it to whomever he wanted, really.
Well, and something else to think about, because you had just mentioned
Yeah.
Quincy in his youth. I mean, he was 20 years old, I think, when he was traveling the world with Lionel Hampton.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
20 years old. And so, that's a big responsibility right there. So think about how he just built on his career year after year after year until he ended up at, as I said, an iconic figure in entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, it is incredible. It is incredible.
Please do.
Ladies and gentlemen, with us in the podcast today is none other than Marcus Wiggins. You might know him better as Big Sexy on the Michael
I
Dean
am what I am.
podcast on Prince. Marc, we are just thrilled and delighted to have you, but I just want to give you to throw a couple superlatives out there before you say hey to the people. He's a music, entertainment, and media attorney, sports contract advisor. You're also on the Grammy.
Yes, I'm a Grammy member of technically it's the Recording Academy of America. Yes, I'm a member.
Yeah. I mean, essayist, speaker, podcaster. I'm going to throw a couple other superlatives in there myself. He is erudite. He is an Epicurean. And he's just a bad motherfucker. Ladies and gentlemen, Marc Wiggins in the house. Marc, woo!
Marc.
Thanks for coming in
Gentlemen, thank you.
and dude, if you're all friends with him on Facebook and you read his post on Quincy Jones, I was like, man, let me reach out let me see if there's even a possibility that you got time for us over here on our humble little podcast. And we're just thrilled to have you, Marc. Thanks for coming on board.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm just I had a lot of things cooking today, and when I heard that Quincy was no longer with us this morning,
Yeah.
I'm like, let me stop for a moment. And I wanted to put something up because I just felt it was the right thing to do. Because a lot of us in this music industry and who are touched by the music industry have been touched by Quincy. We were talking offline about so many things that he's done and people he's worked with. And I completely forgot. I was reading something last week from one of the guys from Toto.
Yeah.
And it's like they worked with Quincy.
Steve Lukather?
And not Lukather. I think it was
Picard?
not the one who passed. I'm not the one who passed. I think it's his brother.
Okay.
I get them mixed up. I get them both mixed up.
Jeff Porcaro or Steve Porcaro?
I think it was Jeff Porcaro.
Okay.
Because didn't Steve pass away?
One of them did.
One of them passed away. Yeah. The one
The
who
drummer.
didn't, yes. He had said some things, and it's like, he's Quincy, and when people talk about Beat It, that happens because of Quincy.
Yeah.
Period. And no one else could call up Eddie Van Halen at that time. Hey Ed, why don't you come on and do this for us? He's Quincy. Yeah, I'm gonna go. And he could call anyone at any time, and everyone would be like, I'm there. No one would ever go to Quincy and say, well, I'm not going to work with him. He's Quincy. And
right.
Michael Jackson didn't ask him to do his album. He asked for a suggestion for someone to do his album when he did Off the Wall. He's like, well, I'll do it. And he's like, you will? Because he's Quincy. That's one of the few people who's forgotten more than any of us are ever going to know, because he could do it all. He could do anything.
Absolutely. And I often bring up to people that Off the Wall would not have happened had Quincy not produced the Brothers Johnson up to Light Up the Night, and Michael certainly had his ear to ground. And you look at the cast and crew of Light Up the Night, and 90% of those people on that album that are credited as musicians are on Off the Wall and Thriller, including the Brothers Johnson, including Thunder Thugs.
Exactly, because Louis Johnson was notorious, for his session work as a bassist. And when you look at that album, because I remember when the album came out way back when,
Yeah,
with Get the Funk Out My Face, I did not know.
yeah,
I did not know. I mean, I knew the name Quincy because I was, a young kid. I would see his name on credits and
yeah,
all that. I didn't,
yeah,
and I would see his epic effects in the jazz realm too, on
yeah,
some Blue Note stuff.
yeah,
But I just didn't know he was just all over the spectrum like that.
yeah,
He's amazing.
And I think that's important because I always liken it to, obviously, Quincy produced biggest album of all time, Thriller, different genre, different vein with Michael Jackson. But then I think it was 1984, he's back working with Sinatra again on the LA Is My Lady project.
yep,
So I mean,
And yes,
and just seamless, no matter what the genre, no matter what the style, he was Quincy.
yep. And the fact that he has such an amazingly wide skill set from all his collective experiences. You know, you think that his early days when he was a trumpeter and Ray Charles helps him to learn how to write music because a lot of people don't know that Ray Charles actually wrote music in Braille system, but he actually wrote shit down. And one of his early heroes helped him pave the way for his compositional skills. Then you get to 1957 and he goes to Paris and not only works with one of the greatest French pop songwriters, Michel Legrand, who went on to write and co-write stuff for Broadway rep. He goes on to work for the record company over there and then hooks up with composer Nadia Boulanger at the Paris Conservatory of Music and learns how to score music by studying Ravel and all these amazing classical composers. So he's got that tool under his belt. I mean, Jesus, what was there nothing that Quincy couldn't do? And the answer is not really.
Really, right?
yeah.
I just I was watching a BBC documentary, which is the lives of Quincy Jones, and rewatching it today, off and on work and things that I had going on as well. And I'm just like, that's right. And then somebody says to him, well, Quincy, if you really want to break into the market, and let's not forget, he's the first black record executive in history. He is the first black composer composing for major Hollywood films. So he's already breaking color barriers that way.
Down those doors, right?
I mean, and then somebody says to him, well, if you really want to break into the white market, you need to write a pop hit. He's like, and in his youth and arrogance, which he certainly can back up, he's like, yeah, that's no problem. So what the hell does he do? Hooks up with a 16-year-old white girl named Leslie Gore, writes 15 pop songs that all hit the top 10. And the first one he writes, and arranges, It's My Party, and goes to number 1. I mean, okay, well, he checked that one off. I mean, shit. I mean, but prior to Michael, it's like, people, he's going to get all the flowers in the casual listener with Michael Jackson, and deservedly so. But he's more than that. Huge.
Much more.
Huge. Much more. And you being the audiophile, Mark, you've got a great collection of his stuff.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So
it kills me. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so being the audiophile that you are, because you got some nice high-end stereo equipment and when I say audiophile, you are truly a listener, and you need only the best equipment. What's to you? When you heard Quincy died, what was the record you're like, man, I got to put this one back on? What hit you?
I went up and immediately went to my system and put on Back on the Block. Okay. There was a song called the Brazilian Wedding Theme. And it's just instrumental.
Yeah.
And I put that on and I'm just like, and then it's like, I'm looking at everything, I'm like, there's so much. There's so much. I look at a selection off Juke Joint that he did with Maya, not Maya, excuse me. I'm gonna put you on Tamia. Tamia, I think that's her name. You put a move on my heart. I'm like, oh, it's just an amazing song. And then, as I was in college becoming a budding audiophile, I would listen to Secret Garden,
Oh,
and then you could hear the bass changes with the higher quality cable.
yep.
Because if you put on some nonsense cables, you hear "Tell me a secret." And you put on some real cables, oh, tell me a secret. Well, oh shit, okay, this is what's going on.
Yep.
And the meticulous way he would do these things, along with his buddy uh, Bruce Swedien, they were truly an awesome. And I just read an article. I just saw a clip actually of the late Bruce Swedien was talking about as he was mixing Billie Jean.
Yeah.
He's sitting there with Michael, and Quincy's off doing whatever. They're at mix 91.
Mm.
Quincy walks in and says, "What is this?" "Oh, well, it's still not right." He's off. No, no, no. Play the first mix. Okay. Play the second mix. Is it better than that? No. Go with that. Because he has the ears. And
Right.
the second mix is the one that we all heard on the record
Yep.
because he knows what he's listening for.
Yep.
And then he did, the whole We're the World session and wrangled all of those egos into one
My
space.
God.
And before he did that, and I just recently learned this, he did Donna Summer's album called Donna Summer. What stands out on that song is State of Independence.
Yeah, you
And
you
if
you
you
posted
watch,
about that.
yeah, if you watch the video for that, it's like, well, here's We Are the World right here. Because you have so many people in there, Lionel Richie, Christopher Cross, Kenny Loggins, Dionne Warwick, just singing background. Michael Jackson, just singing background on this. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is amazing. This is
Yeah.
amazing. Because he's Quincy.
It's Quincy, right?
People would be in the studio and is Quincy here? Oh, can I go sing for him? Yeah. If he could, utilize your talent, you were welcome. The guy and that's just on vocally. Again, the musicians he could call like that.
Yep.
Come play on an album because people talk about Eddie Van Halen, but you mentioned Steve Lukather.
Yep.
All the Toto dudes,
Yep.
all of them,
Yep.
play it on those albums.
Particularly Human Nature. Human Nature is essentially a Toto song with Michael Jackson on top.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. I recently heard the demo of it. Yeah, it is. It's a Toto tune.
But
and they did their thing.
You bring Quincy into you bring Quincy on top of that shit. I mean, he brings all this stuff together, and then again, like you said, he was a master orchestrator, not just of instrumentalists, but of people and personalities.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because Kurt and I were talking at the top of the recording that if you look at the We Are the World, and for anyone who's seen, the documentary Greatest Night Music on Netflix, yes, you have Lionel Richie and you have Michael Jackson. You have all of these stars and personalities and, dare I say, egos all in the same room.
Yep.
But if you watch any of those clips, who's in charge? It's Quincy.
Quincy.
All eyes are on him. He is orchestrating everything. He's producing everything. He's conducting everything. I mean, that really wouldn't have been what it was without Quincy Jones.
It couldn't happen. It couldn't happen. If someone would have played, their diva card and been all difficult, Quincy's like, we're not doing that here. I'm Quincy. Show up and get in line. Period. Because I'm Quincy and, I'm Quincy.
And you're not.
And you're not, exactly.
And the only person that tried that when I watched the documentary, the only one who tried to poke the hornet's nest was Stevie Wonder, who also,
Stevie, yeah.
But Stevie's taking the piss a little bit, and he knew he was just trying to break the tension, I think, more than anything.
Yeah.
But when he starts bringing that African chant in,
come on, Stevie. Come on, Stevie, man. Come on now. But I think I'm going to name names. I think it was the country cat. Was not Merle Haggard? It was
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon. It was Waylon. He's like, this shit. Now I'm out of here, man.
I don't know nothing about chanting no African stuff. I'm gone.
I don't know none of that bullshit. And see, that was Michael brought that nonsense in there. Like, come on, we're not doing this.
We're not doing that.
No.
But and I still get on Quincy. Now, granted, Quincy didn't make the list of people, from what I understand.
No, he did not.
But a lot of people, were giving Prince a hard time for not being there. I'm like, well, hold on. What people who weren't there? because Madonna was doing her thing.
Yep.
Whitney was just coming out like, dude,
Yep.
you know, what are you beefing about? You can always, hindsight allows
Yeah.
you to go back and, pick and choose this one and that one and this one and that one. But
Yeah.
again, he wrangled the whole thing and made it come out.
Mm-hmm.
He did that.
I'll argue, Mark, to piggyback on your thought there. You know, they could have given Prince just as much privacy as Michael was given because Michael was not at the American Music Awards that night. He recorded his vocals and the main chorus by himself.
Right.
Now you mean to tell me
Oh,
as big a star
oh,
as Prince was, they couldn't have allotted him that same amount of privacy at the end of the whole session? Come on now.
no,
It's a chess game.
no, it is, it is. And I've recently learned that Michael's one of his portion to come right before Prince's,
Yep.
and that's where Hugh Lewis stepped in and saying that
Yes.
Prince like doing this. Come on,
All praise to Huey. Again, listen, Huey was
yeah,
put in an awkward position and he swung for the
yeah, he
fences,
was.
man.
He hit it out of the park.
I love me some
And
Huey. Listen, he's a hell of a harp player. A lot of people, Huey Lewis played harp for Thin Lizzy.
I saw Huey live a
Yes,
bunch
sir, he did.
whoa,
He sure as shit did.
that I did not know.
He played
That I
harmonica
did
for
not
Thin
know.
Lizzy back in the early days. You can look up, now you're going to look up clips, Mark. Knowing you, I know you're going to go down the rabbit hole, but I love me some early Thin
Yeah,
Lizzy, but
yeah, I have
that's
to.
how he got his rock, blues and rock chops from hanging out with cats in Ireland, coming from where he came from in the States, man. Shit. But but that's the thing. When he was asked, I think what was it, Kenny Loggins was the one, because Quincy went to Kenny Loggins and said, "Hey, who do you think could take the place of?" Because he knew who to ask.
Yeah,
Again,
exactly, exactly. He
again,
knew.
Quincy knowing who to ask questions because he could delegate authority, but he could also ask people who you think would be a good choice. He was informed. I mean, he just knew who to ask stuff.
One of the things that
And the thing is, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mark. One of the things I always found interesting, though, was that whole argument from so-called music purists or, jazz purists who said, you know, Quincy turned into something else because, obviously his career with Lionel Hampton and Harold Arlen and Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey, Duke Ellington, Sarah Vaughan,
Oh,
all was well cemented.
yep.
And then when he started to move into the TV soundtrack themes and then, the pop, rock, funk, disco genre, I always thought that was an unfair criticism of him because he could do it all. And I saw no difference in terms of his performance, in terms of his mastery
Nope.
of music, whether he was working with Sinatra or he was working with Michael Jackson. So I always thought that was very interesting that why people would hate on that.
I can explain that easily. And I've been guilty of this myself. It's one of those things where, especially with a genre like jazz, which isn't widely accepted because it's so specialized. You get something really, really good. This is ours, and they can't see it. They
Yep.
can't have this. And then he steps out of the circle, and here comes all these casual people. Hey, I like this too. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. No, be gone. I remember when I saw Prince, the Third Eye Girl shows, and they did the song "She's Always in My Hair."
Yep.
Right.
Someone next to me said, "What song is this?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, are you speaking to me? Essence, be gone." So I get that. I get that. I mean, you need to know what you're in, where you were standing, man. Get out of here.
That's a great
And me
analogy.
and Michael Dean will talk about this. I'd always say that when Prince in later years would do the big arena shows,
Yeah.
pass, because he would do all the hits, which is fine, but that's not what I want to see. I
No.
Mhm.
want to see the new music, in the small, venues where he's just saying, "Look, we're doing this now. So if you're not here to be about this, drive a little red Corvette, you're in the wrong building.
Yeah, you're in the wrong
Boom,
building. Right.
that's where I need to be."
I'm sorry. Did you say One Night Alone? What did you say? I'm sorry.
Uh,
One Night
Third
Alone
Eye Girl.
tour?
Third
No,
eye.
no, Third Eye Girl tour.
Oh no, no, no. I was just being coy
He
there.
did
But
that too.
that too.
He did that too, because again, the
Right.
person who went with me, we're talking, we're just doing it. Yeah, and they played oh, I'm embarrassed. I don't know what the name of the song, It's off one of the later albums though. It was I'm embarrassed now. It's off 21 put it that way. And he did
Oh,
that. And she's like, what's that like? Essence.
Get on the
So
boat.
no, it wasn't Get on the Boat. It wasn't Get on the Boat. It
Incense and candles.
was
We'll start throwing them out.
mm,
Love, the word,
Love.
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 That's a great
That was
song.
it. That was a great song. Oh.
Great album.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you barbarian, be gone. You can't reduce someone down. Well, if it's not Purple Rain, then I don't know. Get out.
Right.
Get out. Okay. And with Quincy, whose catalog is even bigger, you can have people come up to us and say,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if it's not the Sinatra, at the Sands in Vegas, away with you. And then someone can say, well, I like the Miles Davis album he did.
Yep.
And then you go up into the Dude and all these other things, the
Yeah.
Brothers Johnsons, like,
Yeah.
there's so much to wrap your head around.
One guy
You know,
today, Mark, I was just listening to brought up. Oh, it actually was Steve Lukather, and Steve was like, when the Body Heat album first came out, I heard that
yes.
and I said, man, is this a record people are gonna? He's like, he called it the Hugh Hefner record. I could hear that played at the Playboy Mansion, and essentially somebody else said, well, that album probably single-handedly gave smooth jazz an identity before we even called it smooth jazz. You think about some of that stuff that he put out that's in the 70s. It's just, he combines all these different styles of music that he was exposed to and just put his own stamp on it.
Exactly. And he could do anything. Eddie said once that if Quincy ever did a rock album, he wanted to be his.
Yeah.
And I thought about that. I'm like, could he do that? Yeah, he's Quincy. He can do anything.
Yeah.
Because part of what he does is communication. It's
Right.
bringing out the best performance
Right.
from
Right.
from the artist. And some producers can do that, and some can't. Some just stand there, okay, go ahead and do this. No, 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 no. You have to encourage them. I was reading an article with Rick Rubin, and he was talking
Yeah.
about when he was producing AC/DC.
Yeah.
Coming to the studio, and Rubin's all ready to go. And I'm like, hold on, mate, we're not ready yet. And
Saw
then
that.
once they would start, they would just blaze through it a couple times because that's what they do.
Yep.
You're not going to get like 20 performances. He says like running a sprint. You get two, top fuel shots, and then you got to take 5.
Yep.
And Quincy could do that. He understood the limitations here.
Yeah. And he also put people. What was it? Questlove said about he put people he got people in their alpha state. He'd record them in the middle of the night or whatever. They were tired or sleepy, so that they didn't do what he coined paralysis by analysis.
By analysis.
I love that frickin' quote. It's like, in other words, don't overthink the shit. Just go in there, put your hands down, play. I mean, Prince, Diamonds and Pearls, anybody? Isn't that what Prince told Tommy Barbarella?
Right. Just play.
And the first keyboard sounds we hear on Diamonds and Pearls on the chorus is the first take, first impression. So if you want to capture it, because we can always put Prince in the conversation, us three. But, hello. But
and if I remember correctly, Kurt, didn't Sonny and Michael Bland and Tommy Barbarella go back to Paisley Park that night? They had already been, I think, and then they went to the club or something. They played. They went back. Prince called
Bunkers,
them back,
yep.
And then they ended up laying down those tracks. And the first take was what they used on Diamonds and Pearls. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. That's what Michael told us off the air, and what a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What takes a good musician. And Mark, I know you'll certainly be able to chime in on this one. When we had Michael Bland on earlier this week on an episode.
Oh, Michael's such a great dude, man.
But here's what makes him great. Yeah, you're right. But I said this to Michael, and I was glad I got to say this to him. What makes a good musician a great musician is, you get a good musician who can do all the riffs, all the fills, everything sounds great. What makes him a great musician, and this can apply to Quincy, to Prince, all the other luminaries, Michael himself, is that he's got a philosophy and a psychology on top of the technical ability to play the instrument that he's doing. There's all these other layers that they add to the mix. And you talk about Quincy, producers in general wear many hats. They're a psychologist, they're a cheerleader, they're a disciplinarian, like a school teacher in a way. And boy, I would have loved to have attended Quincy University. I don't know about you.
I would have a master's degree coming out of there.
Shit.
No, I have a doctorate. That's what I would. Because there's so much to learn. He had so
Right.
much knowledge,
Yes.
and he was always willing to pass it on too. You mentioned Questlove. I was listening to the Jimmy Jam episode today, actually,
Yeah.
and Jimmy was saying that the late Clarence Avant told him, he said, "Look, you need to find the next us, and keep this thing going." And I thought about that today, and it's like,
Yeah.
now that Quincy has gone on other things,
Yeah.
I'm looking at Jimmy and Terry in that light now.
Yeah.
Like, okay, guys,
Sure.
you gotta keep this thing moving.
Fair enough.
Because it's really hard to find in these times producers who are about instrumentation.
Right.
Everything is, let's do it like this with digital this and that, put on TikTok. There is more to this than that.
Well,
people
yeah.
tend to devalue music that way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying that at all.
No,
I'm saying we need to get back to picking up instruments.
Right.
Yep.
Pick up a guitar, pick up a trumpet, and just suck. But you'll get better, because you'll enjoy doing it.
I'll give you an example. 30 years ago, to piggyback. Sorry to interrupt you there, Mark. I immediately thought in the '90s when the Beastie Boys went from just doing right, went from just doing samples, and then Check Your Head comes out,
right,
and they're doing real instruments, and that totally changed the landscape of hip hop, because even they were like, you know what, we should really try, because you got the era of grunge where hip hop and grunge are kind of crossing paths and going, oh hey, nice to meet you. Oh hey, you know what? I kind of like what you're. Well, I kind of like what you're doing too. So they took the chocolate and the peanut butter, Reese's peanut butter cup mentality, and put those two together. And goddamn, if it wasn't gold.
Yeah, they did.
That to me is kind of what we need now, happening with all the kids making what I like to call laptop music, with stems and recording stuff. Hey, some of that shit's pretty good, but like to your point, having an organic component, it's an overused word, but not in this case, an organic component to actually tactile, physical manifestation of an instrument in your hand, and having that as a creative output. And there's going to be somebody like that that's going to do it. There will be a
clearly. One of my new clients, and I'm not going to spill too much gravy here, but one of my new clients is in process of getting permission to use a recently departed legendary singer's catalog and do some covers. And we'll talk.
Okay.
And the one of the names that was mentioned was Chris Stapleton. And I thought, if you get Chris Stapleton to sing one of this person's songs, I'm the first one in line.
Shit.
Because, someone like Chris is so gifted, and he can do anything. Yep. And that's what I want to see. I want to see people, let's collaborate. Let's take people out of different genres and do something. Let's do that. We don't see that anymore.
Apart from like occasionally on the Grammys or even the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to a smaller
extent.
The Hall
of Fame, yeah, too small.
It
needs to be done for real.
Yep.
And now the labels get in the middle of it and just fuck it up.
Oh, of course.
No, they don't need to be involved. Let's just, artist A, artist B, I like what you do. Hey, I like what you do too. Hey, let's just jam together. Boom.
There it is.
Yep. What is that?
Yep.
What is that?
Hey. Lady Gaga is a great example of that shit. Okay. I'm just going to put her name out there because to me, she's got the vaudeville aesthetic of old and has brought it into the present day. She can act. She can sing. She can dance. She can do different genres of music. I mean, if Quincy had been alive for another couple of years, Lady Gaga and Quincy doing an album together, or somebody like that, that, I mean, she's got that old school aesthetic that somebody easily on Quincy's level could easily work with. And Mark Ronson kind of approaches that territory. Doesn't, I know he doesn't quite, I know, but somebody on steroids like that.
With Mark, I was really, I'm not going to say dismissive. I won't use that phrase. But I was really skeptical. And then I actually said to myself, look, don't be that guy.
Yeah.
And I got the second album, I think it's called Late Night something. Oh.
Yeah.
And I played it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It is fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. And then I have to give credit where credit is due. I heard an interview with him. I think it was Questlove. And he talked about what he wanted to accomplish with that album. And I'm like, okay, take a listen to this. Boom. Love it. And, mentioning Questlove, I got to give it up to Questlove. I was not aware of his geekery and all that because he's one of us, obviously.
Yeah.
And I was at the airport in D.C. coming back home, and I saw his book, his first book. I think it was Mo Meta Blues. I think that was it. I picked that up. I'm like, let's see what this guy's about. And I read it, and one thing that immediately hooked me was when he was very young, he was, at a place where Kiss was. And he got to see Kiss. He was just a fan like, you are?
Yeah.
Awesome. And then he's also an Epicurean, like myself. I'm like, I can hang with this guy.
Nice callback.
And then I heard he did his podcast. I don't miss his podcast, and I am a tremendous fan of his knowledge.
Yes.
Of this, of what we do here.
Marc,
that's what gets me. When people.
Yeah. I often say, sorry to interrupt you again. I'm often say that Questlove's my intellectual crush. Like, I'm in love with that brain. I'm in love with that encyclopedic brain of his that knows so damn much. But I will tell you, and I'm going to bring Michael Bland back in the conversation the other night because he's got that Questlove type knowledge too. And he brought up Kiss in the conversation. I said, okay, so he goes, you thought I was bluffing. I said, no, I know you're not bluffing because, his favorite Kiss album is Destroyer. I said, oh, the Bob Ezrin years. Okay. He said, oh, you know about Kiss? I said, yeah, I'm not bluffing either, Michael. So he said, he said, well, you got to understand at the time Kiss was working with Bob Ezrin of The Wall, Pink Floyd's The Wall fame and all this, Alice Cooper.
Oh, yeah. Alice Cooper. Oh, yeah.
And his response to that was, man, that was a lot of fake blood he worked with over the years at that time. I said, you're not joking. But Destroyer is Michael Bland's favorite Kiss album. There you go. In case you wanted to know.
Man, Michael's so cool. We had him on with Michael, Dean, and myself. And we talked to him a few times. Every time I talk to him, I'm like, Mike, I got to tell you, man, when I first heard you play live, because anything can be done in the studio, can't you do it live? And I'm at the Act One tour, and he hits that first snare and broke my rib. I'm like, this is what I want to hear.
Right.
He's the closest thing to Bonham that I can honestly say I've heard.
Right.
He's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And we'll tell you,
the tone, the pound, the intensity. Like, that's my guy.
And of course, Billy Cobham was a huge influence on that drum setup. He tells us this, the different. We asked him what the difference was between playing with Prince in your drum setup and playing with Soul Asylum, and obviously he's just got a basic 5-piece kit, no frills on Soul Asylum, but Billy Cobham's sense of theatricality and visual, of course he's playing all those toms. It's like, and then Neil Peart comes in the conversation too when you talk to Michael's ability to do that stuff too. But yeah, Bonham meets Cobham meets Neil Peart. When that's your approach to a song, holy shit.
That's saying something.
Woo! I get
He's
goosebumps
just
just thinking about that.
amazing. And honestly, I wasn't a Soul Asylum fan back in the
Yeah,
day,
yeah,
but I got to tell you, if they come and he's with them, I'm there. I'm there.
yeah. At the
Just to
moment,
hang
I
out.
think he's not touring with them for other.
He's doing it. He's doing his own thing, right? He's doing the
Yeah,
brothers thing.
Yep.
yeah.
NET,
But there's
yeah.
some other things involved. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. But he didn't get too specific. But yeah, he's for the moment. But he's recording with them, and when he can join them back, he'll be back with Soul Asylum, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's doing the brothers thing right now. Yeah, and he's got this gig at the Crooners Supper Club out there in Minneapolis, and
Yes.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Friday night, right? Yeah.
yeah, this Friday. Yes.
There's a plug for Michael.
Yeah, there you go, Michael. Here's another plug for you, baby.
Well deserved, right?
Oh well, yeah. I wish we lived a little close. Wish I had a private jet. I wish I was taller. I wish I was a
Me too.
baller.
Right. We'd be there, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just flying for the weekend. Do a little music and fly back out.
I back out, right?
Just make sure
Oh yeah.
Gina Scatagracci's on board the plane, cooking some fine meals and shit.
You're Italian cook, right?
That's right. That's right. Anyway, but
One of the other things I wanted to just mention about Quincy is,
Yeah.
his work in television.
oh,
Say what you want to say about, all the different genres in television as a lesser medium, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, think about, Ironside, the Sanford and Son, the Bill Cosby Show, scoring at least one of the episodes of Roots, Mad TV. I mean, he
yeah.
had that skill set as well. So smaller projects were just as valuable and important as the larger, recordings that he did. So
Hold on a second.
really, I don't think.
Yeah. But he took Will Smith
Mm,
from just being a national household name to an
Yep.
international
Megas.
household name,
That's
I
right.
dare say.
right.
Gave him the shot. Yeah.
With Fresh Prince of Bel Air. That's the first show
An
he
opportunity.
executive produces.
hmm
I mean,
So if you think about it, who's the real king of all media?
Please.
ooh.
Just saying.
Please.
Just saying.
I
dig
remember
it.
back in. I'm gonna expose myself a bit here. I remember back in '82 or so.
Okay.
I was way in the General Hospital. Don't judge me. And at the time,
Luke and
they had
Laura.
a character named. This is a little bit after Luke and Laura. They had a character named Frisco Jones,
Yes.
and he had a song. I'm like, okay, let me go check this out. I pick up the album, and the album is on the Quest label. I'm like, hold on, Quincy's co-signing this? Gotta have it.
Wow.
Gotta have it. That's all I needed to see. It took me right off the fence. Like, oh, I'll take that. Let's go.
Now I got to go listen to Frisco Jones.
Yes.
Thanks, Mark.
Yes.
This is why we asked you on, man, because you always throw in a deep cut here or two or three or four. So I appreciate it.
And there's just so much. And oh man, now I'm gonna start pulling up my Brothers Johnson. And you mentioned audiophile things earlier.
Yeah.
I'm at a point now in my snobbery that if I can get something in high resolution, I'm getting it. Or to that extent, on like 180 gram double vinyl, I'm getting that too. And so now I'm going to just be a pain in the ass and say, look, can we get the Quincy stuff re-released in 2496 or 180 gram vinyl?
Yeah.
So awesome. But the thing is, it's a double-edged sword. Who would take that responsibility to say, hey, I'm going to go ahead and remaster Quincy stuff?
Right.
Yeah, not me.
Right.
Not me.
Nope.
I don't want that responsibility.
Who indeed would? Boy, that's a question for the ages.
Now, someone like Mobile Fidelity Sound Lab
Sure. Yeah.
could just come along and say, look, we're not remastering shit. We're just going to put it through our process to get the high resolution out of it. Perfect. I'll be all about that.
Well, let me ask you this, Mark, because you frequently
hold that thought before I forget.
Yeah.
Mobile Fidelity, speaking of which, they're doing Off the Wall in 180 gram vinyl.
Ooh.
Comes out in January, 45 RPM.
Oh.
It's gonna be amazing.
Mm.
I'm
I've
sure.
already pre-ordered mine, and also doing it on Super Audio CD. I'm getting one of those too.
Uh,
So that's gonna be just how,
okay, you're gonna have a
and that's
listening
Quincy.
party at your house. What time? What time's that happening?
May have to do it.
With the sushi, with the Michelin sushi carry out and all that.
Oh yes. I like the word Epicurean. I'm going to start using that now. Well, I'm an
you
Epicurean. That's
you
right.
are, but come on, man. Listen, take it, baby. Take that. Listen, I didn't come up with
Taking
the
it.
word.
I'm taking it because I hate the phrase foodie. Oh God, I hate that.
No, 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 no.
Oh, I
You
hate
are
that.
Epicurean, meaning you're the next level. You're the mobile fidelity one step version of foodie.
Thank
Ooh,
you.
see what I did
Thank
there?
you. That's correct. I like what
No,
you did
but
there. I
speaking of which,
compliment.
let me ask you this, because you have you have lauded and praised the mobile fidelity audio one step process.
Yes.
So this off the wall
Yes.
album, is that also going to be in that? Okay. And they're hard to
It's
get because
the
they
one
don't
step.
print many of those. Like
Yeah.
what, 1,000
They're,
copies if that?
they did 10,000 of Thriller, but Thriller wasn't one step. Thriller was only 33 and a third.
Oh.
Off the Wall is getting the double album, 45 RPM. I recently picked up Raising Hell from Run DMC from Mobile Fidelity in 45 RPM. Oh
Wow.
yeah, oh yeah.
Wow.
Again, because I will own this. I'm an audio snob. I have no problem saying it, and it costs a bit more, but it's worth it. People come to me and say, "Well, can I borrow your album?" No. Well, why not? What's your what do you have? What are you playing it back on?
Right.
Oh, my little Crosby. No,
Oh,
no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. No.
I know better
A,
than to
you're not going
ask
to
you.
hear it. A, you're not going to hear it, and B, what's familiar with that? Are you serious? No. Oh, heavens. Oh, but I like Rush. I like Rush. Having a
Oh
fit.
my God. I I can't tell you, Mark.
Barbarian.
Just having you in the conversation here is just it's been a delight. It's just we could do this for 3 hours. We're not going to. I think we have some off the record conversations that need to take place.
Yeah. 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 In fact, guys, I got to jump off. She is 4:55. I got to wrap this legal thing up. But I want to jump in and let me circle back to why we're here.
Yeah.
Um, Quincy, all of us, all of us
Yep.
have been touched by something he's done.
Yep.
They may not know it consciously, but yeah, he's that guy because he's touched so many musicians and they've touched so many listeners. If you look at the hierarchy, he's on the top. He's
Yep.
Quincy fucking Jones.
Yep.
He's that guy.
Yep.
Well, he didn't do. Yeah, he did. But he didn't. Yeah, he did. Okay. Okay. I promise myself I wouldn't say this. I'm gonna be a little petty. A few years ago, a certain university hip hop artist said, "Well, I'm a genius, just like Quincy."
Oh,
No, no, you're not.
I think I know who you're
And
talking
Quincy's
about.
like, "Can you score? Exactly. Can you do a score of an entire soundtrack? Can you do the trumpet charts? Then sit
Hey,
down and shut up." I'm like, well, I guess that settles that, doesn't
don't forget,
it?
as Prince quipped, he wrote my humps.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yeah, you
Yep.
worked
I
with
know what you
Michael
mean.
towards the end of your life, but you're not Quincy.
No,
I
no.
said what I said.
I will. I believe the young people say I'm standing on business on that one.
right.
Yes,
Please.
yes.
Shh.
All right, guys. I got to rip. JD, dude. I'll see you later. Kurt, I got you, man. I got you.
Mark, thanks for coming out, man, and we'll chat with you later. This conversation's not over with, but go do what you got to do. We're gonna wrap things up while you leave, man.
You got it.
Take
All
care,
right,
Mark.
guys.
Take care,
Thank
man.
you. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Jay, was that just?
I everything we thought it would be and more.
I mean, so just to have Mark come in the conversation like that, there's a reason why we call our podcast the Electric Vibe. It's because of people like Mark
Absolutely.
and the musicians that we've had the honor and other folks that we've had the honor and privilege to talk to, because there's an electricity. I mean, there's electricity between Jay and I, because there's a spark when the two of us get to be engaged and talk and to one another, and then the wattage gets amplified with guys like Mark. It's like we go from 120 volts to 220 like in a second,
Absolutely.
and that's why I was like, let's see who we can get on here, and of all the cats that were available tonight, Mark was available, which I was like, are you kidding? He said yes. Oh, cool. Hey, because Jay and I were originally, whether you all know this or not, we're going to know now. We originally were just going to do this with the two of us, without anybody in the mix, and I was like, well, and I'm apparently having technical difficulties. I just took my earbuds out of my.
Oh, it's that's your electric vibe.
Hey, it's that local color that everybody loves so much. The spontaneous moments that happens when you do this stuff on the fly. But at any rate, that was great, man. And again, the main subject is Quincy Jones, but to have Mark come on and just add his 2 cents, which are always more like $2, 20,
Twenty
30,
dollars.
highest bidder. So at any rate, Jay, what else can we say that hasn't been said about Quincy?
I think that we just need to appreciate, I mean, really appreciate the legacy and all that Quincy had to offer to
Yeah.
entertainment. Not just going to talk about music. I'm going to say entertainment and
Entertainment, right? You mentioned the TV shows and the all the other stuff.
movies. So no matter what the genre, to Mark's point, we've all been touched by something that he's done, whether
Yep,
you realize it or not. And I think that going forward, we just owe a huge uh, debt of gratitude to everything that Quincy did.
absolutely. And on that note, folks, I'm gonna we're gonna do our usual sign offs, Jay. I think this is a good time to do that. I'm gonna say, if you like what you heard and saw today, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. We want to bring on more special guests, either people from podcasts, from the music world. And let me not forget that Mark is an integral part of being in the Academy, Recording Academy in Sciences. And he's giving guest lectures in that world, the Grammys and stuff like that, about entertainment law. So in sports law, he is a huge deal. He does major sports players' contracts and advises them on legal. The guy's a heavy hitter. He's not just somebody who guests on people's podcasts like he does, and all respect for him to do that. But the guy's a big player in the legal world, in entertainment and sports. He'd be very modest on that end, but to a point. Um, if you know anything about, and Jay, I did say to him, and we're going to have him back onto the podcast where he is the main focus and special guest at some point, because he's a fascinating life.
I mean, we've just scratched the surface.
I mean, yeah. To believe me, he could write a book. He could write a book. At any rate, so and with the thank again, I'd like to thank again Jay, us doing this last minute, and like to thank again Mark Wiggins, aka Big Sexy, for coming on our podcast. And like I always say, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Absolutely. And peace, love, and respect to Quincy Jones and everything that he
Absolutely.
meant to millions of people across the world. Peace and prayers to his family. And to all of you out there, remember, when the universe comes knocking, make sure you answer that door.
Peace.
Peace.